version 9, Retail Pro version 9, inventory creation and purchase orders and receiving. Okay, we are not going to, let's see, start.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All right, so today's webinar, okay, is on version 9, inventory creation and purchase orders and vouchers. My name is Luann. I'm a trainer here at the Big Hairy Dog. Okay, and we do these webinars occasionally to try to cover some of the basics, okay, and try to add in just a little bit of extra features so that you can go back and reread or review the webinar. It is recorded. You will get an email link back to it, and it will be posted on our YouTube channel so that you can look at it over and over and over again. All right. So those of you who are in, I do have about 8 people signed up. I have 3 people signed in now. So if you have questions, use the questions tab or the chat room, and I should be able to see that and address your question either verbally or in the chat. Okay, and with that, we'll start the content of the webinar. All right, so this is the Retail Pro 9 main screen. Usually what we do here is discuss briefly what goes into an item in Retail Pro, and this is the same whether it's 8, 9, or whatever. So for those of you who are doing this because you're thinking of going to 9, everything we discuss here should be familiar with you or for you from 8 to 9. Right? So every item, okay, has to belong to a merchandise DCS. Okay, so I'm going to go into the departments tab here off of merchandise and show you a typical DCS list. The DCS is made up of 3 distinct codes: the department code, the class code, and the subclass code. Each of those codes can be from 1 to 3 characters. They don't have to be letters. They can be they can be numeric. Okay. Generally, what we recommend is that if you're using a 3-character code here in the department, okay, that signifies something. Like in this case, let me expand this to the form view. FL means fly fishing in this case, right? And so you'll notice this particular client also uses FL in the subclass for flies. And we wouldn't normally recommend that you do something like that. I just like to point that out. When you have a department code, this department code needs to be unique within the departments. So you wouldn't have an FL code that meant something other than fly fishing. Okay? And so it's better to follow through and make sure that you don't use FL for anything else in any of the other classes. It's just a confusion issue going forward. So if we look down here in the department codes, you can see they're made up of 3 distinct codes that are combined to make a DCS. The DCS is a 9-character code, which is the combination of the department, the class, and the subclass. And this every item has to have a DCS. Okay, they do not actually have a department, a class, and a subclass. They belong to a DCS code. Okay, so now that we know a little bit about the DCS code, an item usually belongs to a vendor. Okay, a vendor has to have a unique vendor code, anywhere from 1 to 6 characters. It can be alphanumeric. It can also contain some symbols. Some people use the AND sign so that they can, truncate their code and have it still readable. But the vendor code must be unique. items can exist in the system without a vendor code. It can be blank. There are reasons to do that, which we probably won't cover in this webinar, but that is a possibility. So a vendor, the minimum required to have a vendor in the system is a unique vendor code and a vendor name. Okay, and so when we go to set up an item, that item has a department, a vendor, optionally, but usually 99% of the time you have a vendor. Okay, and then there's some descriptive fields in the actual item. All right, so here we're looking at the item list view. In this particular client, I'm going to get back on the page number 1 here, and I'm going to smoosh in some of this stuff here so it makes more sense here. Okay, and this needs to have ALU. This particular client's data was a V8 to V9, so I'm just hiding a few things here. So there we go. Okay, so an item row in version 8 has a DCS. Right, it has a vendor code. It can have a description 1, a description 2, a description 3, a description 4, attribute size, pricing, and cost, and so forth. Right, just a minute of discussion on what description 1 and 2 are generally used for. One or both of these fields can be used to designate what we call a style. In Retail Pro, we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, but in order for this to be a uniquely identifiable item in the system, it has to have a unique description 1 or a unique description 2 or both, and that's configurable in the system. Most people will go with one or the other. In this case, it looks like we've got both the description 1 and 2 are have to be the same in order for it to be a member of a style. So the description 1 or 2 is usually an English description of the item, and then the other would be the usually the manufacturer's style. So what the manufacturer refers to, or how the manufacturer refers to that item. Color and size in the attribute field here, these are optional. Okay, can be used if something it varies by size and color. So in this case, this hat, right, is the same hat, comes in yellow, and that size comes in black, and we ordered it in small, medium, and extra large. Okay, so while we're in here, you'll notice that all of the members of the swirly hat style are now highlighted in blue. That means that they have the same DCS, the same vendor code, the same description 1, and the same description 2, which makes them all members of a style, even though we have separate line items for them, and the separate line items allow us to have an ALU, okay, which is the Retail Pro assigned number that's sequential in the system. Also allows us to have a UPC, which I'm not sure, these items do not have a UPC, but if you look at this one down here, right, each member of the style has its own UPC, which uniquely identifies it down to the size and color, as well as a Retail Pro ALU, which identifies it down to the size and color. All right, so these items can be viewed in what we call the item view, or the item list view, or the form view. This is the form view, shows you all the fields that we need to look at for the individual style, including some on hand down here in the corner. Okay, at different price levels. We're not really going to cover too much about price levels in here. But the form view can show you things that are in tables as well as things that are individual fields, whereas the list view here can only show you things that are individual fields. I can't show you on hand by store. I can show you on hand for a store, I can show you company on hand, but I can't show you store, because that's in a table. If you're looking at this particular item and want to see inventory quantities, you can click here. Okay, and that will show you the inventory quantities for that specific item. Okay, or you can use the form view. Okay, and those are the quantities for that specific item. Okay, so just so we know, like list view, form view, what those terms mean. Okay, there is also what we call style view that we cover in this webinar. And so if I am on something that comes in multiple colors and sizes, okay, like this item does, I can go into the style view. Okay, and this allows me to see either in a grid format, okay, or I can click on this items tab up here to see it more in a linear format, but basically what it does is it isolates this style, okay, which is the same vendor, the same DCS, the same description 1 and 2, okay, and I can look at it either in this list view form, or I can look at it in the grid. Okay, the value of the style view is basically to deal with this item in a grid. If I need, it defaults to looking at the store on hand that I'm defaulted to, but I can pull this down right here and see all my stores at a glance. Okay, so this is size across here, and then store for color 10, store for color 94, store for color 429, so on and so forth, right? So the grid view here is a very valuable thing when you're looking at on hand. We're going to use the grid later when we actually create a PO. All right, so that's the style view. You can flip into the style view from any of the item list views. Okay, you can get into the style view when we're creating a PO, which we're going to do later. Okay, before we do that, a couple of things that I wanted to point out about the form view. Some inventory concepts that we talk about have to do with some of these tables that you see on the screen, right? First of all, we talk a little bit about what a non-inventory item is, right? So 95, 99% of your inventory is things that you receive, that you track the on hand, and you sell them, adjust them out. They're controlled on inventory documents. Okay, there is an option in Retail Pro where you might have something that is not an item that you need to receive, but you do need to sell it. So examples of that are rental fees, or you know, some people sell their miscellaneous sale items as non-inventory items. So anything where you don't want to track the on hand for something, but you need to sell it, it can have a cost and a retail. Okay, I'm not sure if I actually have any non-inventory items in here, but we're going to check real quick to see. I only want to see those items filtered for non-inventory. Right, so here are things. These are shop fees, it looks like. So I'm adjusting some bike parts or something like that. It doesn't cost me anything, but I charge my customer $8 to do so. Right, so if I put that item on a sales receipt, right, I'm going to charge $8 for that. I know how many of those I do in a time frame, week, year, month, whatever. Okay, but I'm never going to go negative on hand in this because I'm not tracking inventory. I don't buy this and stock it and resell it. Okay, so that's what this non-inventory checkbox is right here. All right, another thing that we talk about in this just briefly is you have the ability to track serial numbers in Retail Pro. I'm going to cancel this filter. I don't believe I have too much in here that tracks by serial numbers. So serial numbers and lot numbers are a feature in Retail Pro. So you can track serial numbers all the way through the system, so you can tell the system I want to track a serial number from the minute I receive it. If I adjust it out, if I sell it, if I send it back to the manufacturer, any of those actions, I need to know what serial number I'm doing. That is good for things like guns, where you have to do that by law. Some people use it for expensive bikes, kayaks, anything where a serial number is a value to have. One sec here. Serial type. Okay, so I'm just going to add this to the filter real quick and see if I've got any samples that I can show you. Okay, so I do have a handful of things on here that are tracked by serial number. And so if I were to look at this item right here, and right here, serial number full, means that I'm tracking this item all the way through selling it, receiving it, adjusting it. So any inventory transaction, I have to provide the serial number for this item. Okay, and then there's a table here that can show me by store what's happened to this item and when. So you have tracking by serial number. Now, this item, right, you might have more than one of this particular thing. This looks like a bike. So if I have 6 of these in stock, it's all going to have the same ALU, but it's all going to have a different serial number. And so once you receive those in, if you're tracking the serial number full, you know what serial numbers you have in stock. When you sell one, you have to pick one of the serial numbers that you have in stock to sell. And then if the customer ends up returning it, you have to return it with that serial number, so it's tracked all the way through the system. There is an option here for partial, right? So if you only want to track the serial number if you sell something, that's an option. So that is something that you could do in Retail Pro, and if that's something that applies to your business, then we can work through that with you on a one-on-one basis. And another thing that's less used is lot numbers. If you have things, vitamins or goods that expire, you can have a lot number attached to them, so you know that how much you have on hand in a specific lot number, so you can make sure you push those out before the newer lot numbers, or if you just need to record it so that you know what you're selling out of what lot. It's similar to serial numbers. All right, another thing that we talk about in this webinar, let me cancel my filter, okay, are multi-vendor capabilities, right? So I have this, and I believe this is a Columbia, looks like headband. So I might buy this Columbia headband directly from the manufacturer. I might buy it from a distributor, okay? And if I buy it from a distributor, I can tell the system who that distributor is, okay, by using this multi-vendor tab down here, right? So let's see, I'm getting this from this vendor, and if I get it from this vendor, I pay slightly more for it. Okay, so I'm going to say I pay $260 for it. I can put in a UPC or an ALU. So UPC has to follow the UPC code format. It has to be 12 characters or 12 digits. ALU can be anything. It can be alphanumeric. It can be the style from the manufacturer. It can be a part number or product number from this vendor code. But what it does is allows you to tell the system, I can buy, I can buy this item, there we go, from more than one place, right? And it allows you to restrict the purchase order so that unless this item is defined for this vendor, you can't put it on a purchase order for that vendor. it simplifies things when you have things like postcards or greeting cards or anything like that where you're not going to tag them, but they already have a UPC, so you can make this long list of items that are going to be sold under this item number, and you're not specifically carrying what individual item it is, right? But you're just going to scan a barcode that already exists from the vendor and have it sold under this item. So that's what multi-vendor is for. We don't generally get too deep in some of these subjects. So if you hear of anything here where you have further questions, feel free to email us, right? Or there is some further documentation on some of the stuff that we have out on our YouTube channel. Multi-vendor has a quick little video that explains it in greater detail if you want to try to explore that a little further. The other thing that we talk about here before we get into actual creating new inventory is price levels. Items can have more than one price, and a price level can be attached to a store. So you might have 3 or 4 stores. One of your stores is an outlet, and so anything that you own in that store is sold at a different price than your regular price stores. So price levels can be used that way. Price levels can also be used and attached to a customer, right? So some people have, friends and family customers where they get cost plus 10, right? Instead of a discount off of retail, that would be a use for a price level. Okay, so in this case here, employee is a price level, and that is not a % off of retail per se. In this case, it is a cost plus something. It's like cost plus 10 or 15. Okay, and these price levels can be maintained, and so if you sell this item in a particular store, it uses one price. If you sell it to a particular customer, it will use whatever price level that customer is assigned to. Okay. The other thing that price levels are used for are compare at retails. Right. So you can play this is a great deal in my store, seen out in the general populace at one price, and my everyday low price is $5, just special for you. Okay, so we're going to save that, right? So we can put 2 price levels on tags, right? So we can show compare at $6, and your everyday low price is $5. So that's another usage for price levels. All right, and then before we really get into creating new items, okay, there's one thing that we like to show people that many people are not aware of, and that's the ability to use the inventory list view to print a count sheet or some other kind of method of making an inventory list for various purposes, right? So I'm going to filter to, let's see, something that has on hand. So hang on a second here. Clear. So I'm going to sort my filter by vendor, okay, and then by description 1. Okay, so for those of you that, this needs to be 1 and this needs to be 2. For those of you who are unfamiliar about what I'm doing here, we can use a filter on the side to select items, okay, and also to sort multiple fields. So I'm just sorting by vendor code my whole inventory list. I'm not trying to filter anything. I'm just using this to sort. Okay, because when I did this before, I got some stuff that was on hand, right? So if I look at this glove, right, I have on hand across several stores. Okay, now I can't see that here. Okay, if I were to print an inventory sheet, okay, it comes in basically 2 flavors, one with barcodes on it and one without. Okay, I like to show people the barcode one. I'm going to collect all listed records here, and I'm just going to let it run for a couple of items here, and then we're going to pump this up and we're going to look at it. Okay, so this sheet can show me, right, in the order that it's displayed, items with enough information to go identify the item, tells me what my my default store has on hand, so I can go out and I can verify the count. Okay, and so you can make your little chicken scratches here if there's this item is spread out all over, and then you can use that to adjust your inventory if you wish. Okay, or maybe this is just a spot check, and that's all you're using it for. If you need to input anything into Retail Pro, you've got a barcode right here. You don't have to carry the merchandise up to a Retail Pro computer in order to enter these adjustments or anything that you wanted to do with it. So that's why I like to show people these barcode lists. Okay, there is there is a non-barcode form, right, that exists as well. Okay, that's what this one looks like. And again, these can be tweaked. These are document designs, so if you see something here that, hey, I could use that, but I need to move, something around, or I'm not printing enough description here, or I don't really need the vendor code on it and I need the room for something else, this is just a doc design that you can edit yourself, or one of the trainers can help you do that. Okay, so those are just the little things we like to introduce here when we're talking about inventory. Now what we're going to do at this point is we're actually going to create some items. Most people will create items in the course of creating a purchase order if you're using purchase orders. Now purchase orders are completely optional. You don't have to use them. The advantage of creating a purchase order is that you know your items are in the system, okay, and you know how many you've committed to buy from the vendor, you know when they're coming in, so it gives you the information in Retail Pro before the items hit your back door. So that's the advantage of getting a purchase order in, but it is completely optional step. Most of you will have a purchasing tab on the top menu of Retail Pro. Some people have vouchers and POs separately on the top. In this case, I've got more of a default situation here. So to get to purchase orders, we go to purchasing and purchase orders. Okay, now this is the list view of your existing purchase orders. Okay, and you can see the blue bar up here showing just purchase orders that are active and with this date range. I always recommend that you want to see all your purchase orders regardless of the date range. So I always show people how to change that. So when you're done with a PO, you're going to inactivate it. Okay, so this should always show you just the stuff you're still waiting for. All right, so I created a PO earlier today, but we're going to go in and we're going to generate one right now. Okay, and we're going to look at how to create new items in POs as well as how to do your basic reorder. All right. All right, so when you're in the purchase order screen, you're going to hit New. Okay, the system is designed so that it will automatically generate a purchase order number. You can have the purchase order number automatically put the vendor code or a date on here. That's not set up here, but unless you have an actual purchase order number that was issued from the vendor or something else that you need to use, okay, you just leave that at 0 and it's going to auto-assign a PO when you save it. Okay, now vendor code is important, right? We need to know who we're ordering things from, right? So that's that up to 6-character code. If you don't remember the code, you go in here and you pick from a list. Okay, so we're going to go to, actually we're going to go to that COL. We're going to stick with that vendor, right? So I'm going to order some stuff from Colombia. All right. Once I fill in the vendor, if there's any info in the vendor file that pertains to the PO, this is default terms. You can change that if something different applies to this PO. This account number is coming from your vendor file. It's going to default to order date, ship date as today. Okay. If this is the ship date is something that you need to change, you can do it with this pull down. So I don't want to ship till the 10th. Cancel date's completely optional. If you use it, you can fill it in. If you don't use it, you can leave it blank. Okay, and the only consequence of that is any reports where you would want to filter by cancel date, you wouldn't be able to do it unless you put it in. Okay, things do not automatically cancel in Retail Pro, so basically this cancel date is something that you can use if you put a cancel date in and you set the system so that it warns you if you're trying to voucher something in past cancel, or you can deny lower level employees the ability to voucher something in if it's past cancel. Those are also uses for the actual cancel date. All right, so now that we have the header information filled in, okay, we're going to enter existing items. All right, and simple case scenario, right, is you have the item in your hand with a barcode on it or with an item, and you can just scan or type in the number to add it into the PO. That's generally not the way people would do existing. Okay, they would go into choose edit items. Okay, they would, as you can see, I have the system set so it's only showing me Columbia items. So this is my item list of everything Columbia. Okay, I can use a filter here to focus in on what I need to order. Okay, so I can make my decision in here. If I look at this, I've got a store on hand right here, so I could do it, filter as simply as, let's clear this, okay, and I only want to see things where my company on hand is not 0. Okay, so that filter will do that for me. Okay, so here are all the items from Columbia where I own them somewhere in the company, okay, and it also is going to show me whether or not I own them in this store. Okay, so I can do something just as easy as reviewing down through this list and going, I need to order some of these, right? I need to order some of these. I need to order some of these. Okay, and you fill in the dot quantity. You click OK when you're done, right? And that pulls the quantity back in. Okay. Now, you just told the system quantity, right? And it assumes that you're going to order things at basically what you paid for them last time, okay, and what you priced it at last time. So this is what we call the document cost in retail. I'm going to go back into choose edit current items. I'm going to show you that there's multiple columns here. Right, so this is what you own the system or own this merchandise at right now. If you have any on hand, this is what you're selling it for currently. When we list it on a document, okay, there is a field called order cost that had this value, $7.60 in it. And so that was pulled in here because we're assuming that that's what you're going to pay this time. Okay, and this is the retail that we're assuming you're going to sell these for this time. Right, so if I come back over here, right, and let's say, for instance, this is not what I'm going to pay for this item this time, we're going to edit it in PO cost. Right, so let's say we've got a better deal here. So I'm changing the PO cost here. Okay, this does not affect your on hand until you actually voucher some in, okay, at this cost. So this is your plan. This is your document cost, your document price. This is the plan for when this merchandise comes in. This is how you believe it's going to be costed on the invoice. This is how you plan on retailing it when it comes in. Okay, so this is, you know, how you get inventory items onto a PO if they already exist. Okay, you either scan or enter, look up the items here, choose edit, save them. Now you have a PO, right? So I can back out. That's my PO. It automatically assigned my PO number. If you want to change the PO number, you can. Some people like to have vendor number as a part of it. The only thing that needs to happen is this PO number needs to be unique for this vendor. So you can't have 6 PO number 1s for Columbia. All right, so this gives you the summary of what you've ordered here and what store you plan on bringing it into. We're not going to really get too far into dealing with multi-store here. Just want to give you an overall about purchasing, receiving, and creating new items in the course of that. Okay, so let's see. Any questions so far? I see a couple other people joined, right? So for those of you that joined late, there will be, this will be recorded, okay, and you will get an email back with a link to it. You'll also probably find this out on our YouTube channel. If you go to our bighairydog.com website, there's a video channel link on it, and you will find this later on out in that video channel link, okay, as well as other helpful webinars. If you've never been to the video channel, we're actively trying to promote the resources there to make sure everybody's trained and comfortable on Retail Pro. All right, so we've covered how to create existing items, right, or how to order existing items, and now we're going to go through adding an item in the course of generating a PO. All right, so I'm going to go back to my existing PO. I'm going to hit the form view. Okay, get back to my details page. I need to put a brand new item on here. It's not defined in Retail Pro yet. Okay, so in order to define the item, I have to get into an inventory screen. So I have to go into Choose Edit Items and get this screen. Now this is an inventory screen. It's a stripped down version of the one that you see on the Inventory tab from the main menu, but it allows me to create new items. Okay, so I'm going to go through the basic process here of creating a new item in Choose Edit, okay, and listing it on the document, which is the PO. All right, so I'm going to create a new item with a new tab up here. I'm going to stay in the form view just because it's easier to see what's going on. But for those of you who create new items in list view and just you know, edit across your field, it works the same way. All right, so I got to pick a vendor. I mean a DCS. So that wasn't a good one. So we're just going to pick this. All right, it's going to assume the vendor code because I'm on a PO and I've told the system that I can only order things from Columbia on a Columbia PO. This is your English description. Okay, so this is test style. Okay. All right, and description number 2, in this particular case, they're using as the part number from the manufacturer, right? Tab, if you're using, if your things have colors and sizes, you put in the first color you want to add, the smallest size. Okay, and this is important if you're doing things that are multiple size. And this is the basics. It's going to automatically assign an ALU. Okay, if you have a UPC from the manufacturer and you have it at this juncture, you can put it in here. Most people wouldn't on the PO. And I'm not going to put one in for this because we're going to catch up with that later. Right, so if any of this applies, like serial number type, you can check it off at this time. It's not going to be non-inventory because we're putting it on the document. All right, so I'm going to hit the Save button. Okay, that will have generated an item. If I go back here, here's my item. Oh, didn't give me an ALU. Something's not set right here. Let's see. Hang on one second. Let me add this. Save. See if I can see why we're not creating an ALU here. Because we're not doing that. Okay. All right, sorry about that. I had restored this from a backup and didn't get all my stuff checked out. So purchase orders. Okay, here's my purchase order. Here's my item without an ALU. Okay, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to say, oh, that's not what I want. Right here. I'm just trying to add an ALU to this item so that I can show you how to proceed with the rest of it. Okay. All right. Oh, come on now. Interface, page designer, this box, item info, ALU. Okay. Okay. All right, so I have some really bad problem with my ALUs here. That will work. Okay. All right, well, we're just going to proceed here. All right, so if I am in here and I've created this item, so I'm trying to filter to that new item that I just created, this one. Okay, so once I have my first item set up in my smallest size, if this item is a style, this is how we generally train people to go through and deal with a style. Right, so if it's just item, you just go around, hit new, and keep creating items, and then edit the doc quantity, okay, and that puts the item on the document, okay. So if I go into, if I've highlighted this and I go into Style View, okay, now I'm in the place where I can see a grid of styles. So this is a quick way to add multiple sizes and colors, right? So we always try to show this. Now, one thing you can see here is, okay, I need to have my sizes spread out here, so that's a scale. That's an easy way, right, to say, here's what I plan on ordering these items in. So that's the one element of the grid. The other element of the grid is the color. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and somehow I lost my custom price here. Okay, yeah. Okay. All right. Save. Okay, so I have my first item. I have it set up, and so I've put 1 on the document. All right. So if I needed to tell the system that I'm also going to be ordering in these multiple sizes, once I've assigned a scale to it, I can drop in here and say I'm going to order 2 of these and 3 of these and 3 of these and 4 of these and 2 of these on 1 of these, right? So if you have a size grid, you can order across like you see here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and save this. Okay, and then I'm going to back out to show you where those items show up on the PO, and then we're going to come back in here and we're going to add another color. Right. So while we're waiting for the thing to assign us some ALUs, it's having trouble because I've got some old ALUs in here that are in the same sequence as the one I assigned. So that's one of the reasons it's taking so long. So while we're waiting here, any questions? You can raise your hand, drop into the chat. All right, so I'm going to click the OK button here on the side. I keep getting that little message there, and that's there we go. So here you can see my 2, 4, 6, 8. Sorry, double click. My 2, 4, 6, 8 items on my PO, right? And how many I've ordered. Okay, so that was a quick way to get a style created, right, and get multiple items added on, or multiple members of the same style added onto the PO, all with the same cost and price. Missed one there, so I'm just going to quickly edit that. Okay, now I can save this PO, and we usually recommend anytime you get back to the PO, you should save what you've got going on here. If I need to go back in and add another color to this, if I highlight this, go choose Edit Current, that's going to take me to that item. Okay, and once I'm in the inventory screen, here's a place where I can actually start with this item, go to Style View. Okay, that's going to open up the grid where I can see all the sizes and or colors that come with this item. All right, and so if I'm going to add another color to the list here, create the items and tell the system how many I'm ordering all in one process, right? To start that, you click Edit Attribute Size. Okay, in the fuzzy box right here, you're going to tell me what color. Okay, it's coming in. Okay, that opens up another row down here in the grid. Okay, and then I can tell the system how many I'm ordering from left to right. Okay, and then if I'm staying in the style view, you want to click the Save button up here. That would allow you to go add another row of attribute, okay, or create another new style in here. If you're done here, if you click OK, it's going to save and take you back to the PO. Okay, so this is the Choose Edit Current, right? If I wanted to stay in here, I would just put an asterisk up here, and that would cancel my quick filter, and I could see all my Columbia, so I could go add some more stuff to my PO. Okay, if I'm actually done, okay, I click OK, come back to my PO, so you can see the white ones were added onto the bottom here, and now I've got a PO that's ready to go to the vendor and ready to be received. Okay, we don't generally cover printing and emailing POs. That is a possibility, and if you do not have this going on your system, you can talk to one of our techs or trainers to get that going. That was actually a print and not a preview. Let me just get that on here really quick. So we can all right, so let me go back to that real quick. If you're going to print and or email the PO, you should have this set so that it automatically brings out a preview, right? And then you can send a PDF and either save it to your desktop so you can pick it up and email it, or email it right out of Adobe if you have that set up. Okay, anyway, so you send the PO out to your vendor, you receive the merchandise with the PO number on it, and you're ready to receive that item, right? And the receiving document is the inventory document that actually puts your merchandise in the in your inventory. So that is called a voucher. Usually it's on the same purchasing tab that your purchase orders are on. This document is not optional, right? This is the document that tells the system how many you received of a particular item and what you paid for it and what you plan on retailing it for. All right. Now a voucher can be can reference a purchase order or not. That's totally optional. Okay. If you are creating a new voucher, you go to the voucher screen. Again, we've got our blue bar. I'm just seeing activity for month to date. You can change that with your date range button. Okay. I'm creating a new voucher. Okay. It brings up this screen. The first thing it asks me is, are you using a PO? Okay. If you're using a PO and you don't know the PO number, you can use your 3 little dots. This will take you to your active PO screen. Another good reason for keeping your active PO screen clean. Okay, the things that are on here are the things you're still expecting, okay, and not a bunch of old stuff, right? So we're going to work with the PO that we created earlier. Okay, once I reference that PO, it knows what store I ordered it for. Okay, it knows a few other things about it if we had pre-loaded freight on the PO, if we're expecting a discount, other things like that, knows what the terms are, pulls that off the PO. Also, any instructions that you put on the PO, it will automatically pull in as comments on the voucher. All right, so if we're receiving this PO, okay, we can use a reference, a copy of the PO. So if I hit PO items here, okay, now I'm looking at a representation of what I ordered, right? So this was the original quantity ordered. Yeah, so this is the original quantity ordered, okay? And if I'm receiving as ordered or receiving what's still open, you can use this receive due button. Right, so this is the order quantity here. Receive due fills in the dock quantity for the voucher, okay, exactly as what is open. Right, so if you're receiving back orders, then you can use the receive due button. It'll show you here's what was still outstanding on the PO. You can edit this. If I didn't get these 3 here, I can change this here. Okay, I can zero this out here. So this is one edit point you have. You can edit it here when you click OK. That's going to bring all those items back into the voucher. Okay, so you can also edit here, right? So once you bring your receive due or whatever you filled in there back into the voucher, you can still review this. Okay, you can still review this and change the quantity. So if it turns out when you checked into the box you didn't get all 4 of these, you only got 3, you're going to still have a chance to edit this. Okay, so you can change the quantity, right? You can change the cost, right? So the idea of the voucher is this is what you're going to be valuing your inventory on hand in the system. Right, so whatever's on the invoice as far as what you're paying for this item, that's what needs to go here. Okay, whatever you're going to tag the merchandise with it needs to go here. Okay, and these are the document values. They were pulled off the PO, not out of your inventory, right? Your inventory might be costed or priced differently. Okay, and when we update these this voucher, it's going to put this on hand, or it's going to add 2 to your on hand for this item at $2 each. Okay, and they're going to be valued at $5. Right? If you have existing on hand, okay, in this item, it's going to average in general. Most people will have the system set to average their unit cost in. Okay, but at a single location, you can only have one price point. That's the active price point. And there are some, when we talked about price levels, you can actually have like a tag that has, this is my outlet price, a tag that has my regular store price, etc. But in general, whatever this voucher price is, that's what the current price is going to be when you update this voucher or this document. All right, so this is from a PO, right? We have told the system we're receiving from this PO. We check the stuff in the box to make sure that the quantities are correct. Okay, if we have the invoice, we're going to compare the unit costs to the invoice. So this number down here, this $86, this should be the face value of the invoice. Okay, and so if that's not the case, then you want to try to make the voucher reflect that. Sometimes you get a discount, right? Or freight is on your invoice, and so if you have freight on your invoice, you can put that up here. That would add to the total, right? This is your merchandise total, $86. This is your voucher total with the freight added. Okay, so the whole idea here is this is what I'm writing the check for, whether or not you're using the accounting link or whatever. Your goal is to have a retail pro have your inventory costed how you're paying for it. There are some people who will take freight and do what we call spreading it, right? So taking this $12 and having it proportioned out to the voucher cost, unit cost. We're not really going to cover that in detail, but it is a possibility that you can do, right? So the only point we need to make about this is once you update this document, this becomes inventory on hand. It's an inventory document. It is reversible, but it's not editable for anything that values that controls the value of your inventory. So in other words, if you put the wrong item on here, okay, then you have to create a document to reverse that mistake. Okay, so once you update, anything that's in this middle section, right, is unalterable. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and update this. You can update it. There are several print forms that you can use here. Some people are into paper, right? I'm updating my inventory on hand is going to be updated for this particular location, right? And so now you can see on my voucher list view, here's my voucher. It's a done deal. It's an inventory, right? So if I look at this and I highlight one of my items and I look at inventory quantity, right, in the Springdale store, I think that's what this one is, right? I now have 2 on hand. I don't own it in any other store. So this document, okay, is what created that on hand. Well, I now own that. Okay, and if there's something wrong with this, if I made a mistake in here, okay, then you are going to create another voucher and back that out, right? Create a reverse effect, which we're not going to get into here, but that's the only way to fix anything in the item cost in retail. If you made a mistake in the freight, right, you can change the freight because that doesn't affect the cost of your inventory, right? So if you wanted to change the freight, inventory is not going to be changed, Okay, if you wanted to add a fee, it's a restocking fee or whatever. Sorry, we got to pick this first. Or a setup charge or anything that doesn't affect your cost of inventory, you can edit all of those things, okay, without affecting your inventory on hand, right? But it does affect your grand total of your voucher if you're cross-checking this against what you're paying writing the check for. All right, so all that's well and good. That was a purchase order that we referenced. That is an option. It's the way most people who are using POs will use the voucher. Okay, and so that gives them the ability to go look at their purchase orders now because we've booked that against the PO, and you can see here I ordered 30. Okay, and they still owe me 3. Right. So if you have if you allow back orders, right, you can leave that open, and if that back order trickles in, then you can receive it and complete this PO. If you're not going to allow them to back order and you want to cancel this PO, basically you just inactivate the PO and it's no longer on your active list. Okay, there is no automatic canceling, anything like that. All right, so the other thing in general that we cover on this webinar is you have the ability to skip right past the PO stage, right? You can create a new voucher without a PO. Okay, you can go directly to receiving, right? And if the items exist, and a lot of people use this if they use a lot of vendor barcodes, and for fill-ins and stuff like that, they don't bother writing a PO. They will have the items, like pet supply stores are famous for this. Almost everything has a vendor UPC. They get it over and over again. They don't need to write a PO. A rep comes in and fills out a worksheet, sends you a bunch of stuff, and it's all got vendor UPCs on it. So you can start a voucher, right, and just start scanning the vendor UPCs. I'm just putting some numbers in here. These are actually ALUs, okay, but if these were vendor UPCs, you could just go through here and say, scan everything in the box or the pallet, right, and it would look up what you paid for it last and say, okay, here's what you paid for it last. Here's what the current price is, right? If this is not what you're paying for at this time, you can change this. This is the document cost. Okay, so if you have, when you're doing it this way, if you don't have a purchase order, it's going to go on the best information it has to determine what you're paying for this thing. And if it's not accurate, then you change it on the document here. Okay, and that's what it's going to be costed at when you voucher in this document. Okay, if the item does not exist, you can add it. You can go into Choose Edit Items, because you have to be in an inventory screen to add. Okay, so once you're in here, if you have a new item that needs to go on this voucher, you add it just like you did if you were in the PO. Right, so pick a DCF. Okay. Right, whatever the style is, color size if it means anything, cost, price. Okay, and then once you save it, it assigns an ALU, global UPC if you got it. Okay, and then the important thing is down here under doc item quantity, tell me how many are in the box. Right, okay, and then when you click OK here, that's going to be added back onto your voucher, right? So just because you don't have a PO and the items don't exist doesn't mean that you can't just sit down and voucher them in. Okay, we always encourage people to use purchase orders whenever possible, because then you're not rushed when that box hits, and it's a lot easier to deal with the items, right? When they're brand new, you're at a show or whatever, and you know you're adding the things. Generate a PO, create the items, and then it's all done, except for checking how many you got, okay, and what you're paying for them, instead of trying to find the whole thing from scratch. All right, so again, this item or this voucher, once I click the update button, it's putting that in stock, right? So when I update this, okay, I now own 10 of that particular item here, right? So if I look here, inventory quantity, I own 10, okay? And then one last thing that we like to point out in dealing with vouchers, once you have updated the voucher, and we usually recommend that, you can print tags for everything on the voucher, right? So this is a typical tag. So let me just show you. Usually default to print me one tag for everything on the document. So I'm going to get 10 of those, one of those, one of those, and one of those. Okay, and so that's what this looks like. So here's my first two items, one each. Okay, here's my third item, and then I should have several rows of that $25 item, page, all the way through to the end, right? So that is something that's part of the general procedure when you're receiving. Some people will print tags off their purchase orders, and that's perfectly acceptable way to do it. The voucher is going to be more correct because you're actually dealing with what you actually received. So if they shorted you or anything like that, you tell the voucher that, and it prints tags just for what you need. Okay, so that's pretty much to the end of the voucher part of this webinar. We also cover a few miscellaneous items like clean house on this, just to give you an idea of what the cleanup or inactivation scenarios are in version 9. Okay, so over time, you create a lot of items. Okay, and in version 9, there is no delete item. Okay, so if you're done with an item, you inactivate it. And of course, you can do that one at a time. I'm going to pick this guy right here. I don't think we have any on hand. You can't inactivate something if it has on hand in any location. You can't inactivate something if it's on an active PO. You can't inactivate something if it's on an active sales order, okay, a layaway, a special order, etc. Right? So because of those two last things that I mentioned, it's important that you maintain your purchase orders, right? So when we look at here, right, I don't have a lot of active purchase orders that I no longer need. Okay, this, I don't actually have a lot of inactive purchase orders here. Okay, but if we're done with this PO, okay, we want to inactivate it. Okay, that way the system knows that I no longer need to keep that item as an active item. It's still going to be there, okay, but I don't need to keep it as an active item. Okay, same with sales orders if you're using them. So this balaclava here, I don't have any orders outstanding for it. I don't have any on hand, right? So I can go inactivate this one at a time, right? So if you find something I'm tired of looking at and you know that you don't have anything, you can inactivate it. It will not allow you to inactivate it if you have on hand. Okay, it might allow you to inactivate it if you have an active PO, if you go through that manually. Okay, but that would get rather tedious, right? So there is a utility called Clean House. Okay, Clean House is on the Merchandise tab, right? Here's Clean House. All right, and so what this will do, okay, is automatically filter out anything where you have on hand, okay, or where you might have an active PO. Now I have, tons and tons and tons of stuff in here. Okay, so generally when we show people Clean House, we like to show them, a filtered set, right? So I'm going to use my big filter on the side, and I'm just going to stick with one of my vendors that we've been using here. So let me find Columbia. Come on down. COL. Come on. I'm just hallucinating here. COL. Way too many vendors. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to look at this one vendor. Okay. And I can use other filters, but if I just say, show me just the Columbia. Okay. This is everything that doesn't have it on hand, that doesn't have a purchase order. Okay. I can also use things like I only want to see things, okay, if they're really old, right? So if I say my created date is, let's see, this data is pretty old, so if I do this, it's probably not going to cut down much. So I'm going to exclude anything with a created date within the last 2 years. Okay, so in case I have any brand new items, right, that I've created, but I haven't gotten around to putting them on a PO, I'm not going to throw those away accidentally, right? So only look at older stuff for Columbia. Okay, and so that filter basically would give me a list here that I can now page down through and see, yeah, all this stuff is really old. That's the last received date. That's the last sold date. And if I don't have any on hand and I haven't sold it since 2004, I don't really need to be looking at it all the time. Now, when we inactivate these automatically, you'll still have the history. You'll still have the ability to go look at these things. You can still reactivate them if you made a mistake. They're not deleted. They're not going away for sure. Okay, so I would like to, clean up some of this just to show you how it works. Okay, but that's an awful lot of stuff. So let's see how long this takes, right? So step number 1, okay, on the Clean House is we need to mark the things that we want to clean house, right? We can mark them all using this Mark tab over here on the side. Okay, so I just selected all. So everything that's filtered on my screen is going to get a green check mark here. I may have cut off too big a chunk here. Days later. Yeah, should have picked a smaller vendor. This process, if you haven't done this and you have a pretty old database, it can take a little bit of time to go through and get it marked and get these all inactivated. So use your filter, right, to cut down on the number of items that you're reviewing, because the last thing you want to do is just inactivate thousands and thousands and thousands of items that you didn't mean to. Okay, so this is checked all the boxes, right? And if you see something that you know that you don't want to inactivate, you can uncheck these individually. Okay. Uncheck these individually. Yeah, uncheck that one. Okay, this and this and this and this. All right, so I'm just going to uncheck those real quick. Okay, and so once you've made your decisions and your check marks, the last thing is this clean button right here. Right, so when I press this, everything that's checked is going to become inactive. Okay, as long as there's no active orders or anything like that. Right, so the clean process should take a few more seconds than the actual mark. Right, so while we're waiting for that. Okay. I don't see any questions. Right. So again, I wanted to make sure that everybody knows this is going to be posted out on our website. You will get an email link back to this so that if there's parts of this that you want to review, you have that ability because this does get a little tedious and a little long, and a lot of it is a review for some people. Okay. So we just wanted to make sure that if you're interested in the topics that were at the end, that you get some feedback on it, right? So we're still waiting for the clean house to take place. While we're doing that, let's see. All right, so for any of those of you who have a version 8 to version 9 upgrade, either recently completed or pending, this Clean House tool is something that you should be employing possibly more regularly than you did with version 8. Right? So if you have questions about that individually, please let us know. You can email into service and get a training appointment. If you have a simple question, use the chat room or email into tech, right? And we'll respond in email. If we respond in email, it's free, right? As long as you're, if in some of you who are in this meeting, I think are in the free refresher training category, right? If you keep your software assurance current, okay, and you are a trained SysOp, then if any of the subjects that we covered here, you can book refresher training and cover it for free. Ask individual questions that pertain just to you. So we try to use these webinars to, basically give you a window to refresher training, and because we deal with things generically, you might not get a specific answer, but at least you might know where to ask questions. All right, so we're waiting for this clean house. This might take a little while longer. This is the last subject that we have on our agenda for today. So unless there are any questions, okay, I can leave you logged in. So now I've got, just got timing out here. All right, anyway, so I don't see any questions or hands raised at this point. And like I said, anybody who's signed in, oh, there's a question. Hang on. Bruce Clark is asking a webinar about auto PO. I do think there's one on the schedule. If you want to hold on real quick, I can check the schedule and see when the next one is. One sec. Let's see. Our Pro. Bruce, there probably is one that's already posted on the on our website. I'm looking for upcoming ones here. It doesn't look like we're scheduled to do another one on auto PO until, let's see, 9, tech support, POS. Yeah, not for a while. But there is, I know there's one posted there. One was done like within the last month. So you're looking for the one that says auto utilities. Okay, and we cover auto PO in that one. All right. All right, so we're going to close that. Okay. All right, any other questions? Okay, so my clean house finally ended. And sometimes with older V8 clients, this happens, something about actionable state. These guys I purposefully excluded. This guy, I'm not sure what the deal is in that. It's doesn't have on hand. Okay, so I'm not sure, but generally if you have bits and pieces that the big clean house can't get, you can usually just inactivate those individually. And these guys I purposefully excluded, so I know why those didn't get inactivated. Right, so the thing about inactivation, right, if I go to my inventory list, right, normally when this loads, right, it's set to show me active only, right, and any of you who are in 9 know that sometimes this can take a while to load, right, so if you clean house, okay, you will cut down on the time that it takes to load your inventory list, because it has less to do to load. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't find that stuff. I'm going to filter just to Columbia because that was the vendor that we cleaned up on, okay, and see what's left. Okay, and then I'll show you the what happens when I reveal or show the inactives. Okay, waiting and waiting. All right, well, this is going to run in circles for another few seconds, right? So there we go. Okay, so this is my list of currently active Columbia. When I chose to filter here, anything that has a created date in the last 2 years should still be here. Okay, anything older than that where I don't have on hand is now gone, so it's substantially shorter, my list. Okay, if I need to know that stuff that I've inactivated, if I hit this Show Inactive button up here, now you'll start to see things on my list where this checkbox is unchecked, right? That means that these things, right, the swirly hat and my vertigo hat, right, all of those became inactive because they were older than 2 years, they don't have any on hand, and they weren't on a PO. All right, one last chance to ask questions before I stop my recording. Okay, and all of you who attended, I want to thank you for your attention. Okay, and if you want to review this, it'll be out on our website. Okay, and if you need to ask any further questions, right, you know where to reach us, 800-377-7776. Okay, or email tech@bighairydog.com. Or service@bighairydog.com if you want to make an appointment to talk to a trainer or a tech about any of the subjects that we talked about today. All right, thank you for your attention.